Welcome to the Divisional Round Playoff episode for Free Tendies Fantasy. I'm here with Yanni. How's it going, man?
How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. Prismatic Evolutions came out today, and I was involved in a stampede at Target.
Yeah, me too.
Whenever I
Me
told
too.
everyone about that, or like the people I told about that, they said like, "Oh, I'm happy you're okay." Little did they know I was in the front. I was in the front. I run faster than the children.
Yeah.
There were no boxes left because I took them all the day before. Anyways,
Good.
let's get into football, I guess. We'll start with the first game of the weekend. It's going to be the Texans going into Kansas City to play the defending champion Chiefs. They're going for the three-peat here. We'll just start with like the basic stats like we did last week. The Texans offense in the regular season was 19th in points scored, 22nd in offensive yards gained, 21st in passing offense, 15th in rushing offense, and then 26th in red zone touchdown percentage. Then the Chiefs offense was 15th in points scored in the regular season, 16th in yards gained, 14th in passing, 22nd in rushing, and 22nd in red zone touchdown percentage at 53.8% of the time they got in the red zone, they were scoring a touchdown. To me, right off the bat, does not look like a Patrick Mahomes-led offense to me, but we'll talk about that here in a second. Then for the Texans defense on the year, they were 14th in points allowed, 6th in yards allowed, 6th in passing offense or passing defense, 11th in rushing defense, and 27th in red zone touchdown defense. They were allowing a touchdown 63.2% of the time. And then for the Chiefs, they were fourth in points allowed, ninth in yards allowed on defense, 18th in passing defense. That's actually a little bit higher and better than I thought it was. Eighth in rushing defense, and then eighth in red zone touchdown percentage. They were only allowing a touchdown about 52% of the time opponents got in the red area. So the spread on this game is Chiefs minus 8.5. Over under on this game is 41.5. And let's go. Let's talk about it, I guess. Texans coming off of, in my opinion, a very huge win against the Chargers. I think it's really interesting. Like looking back at that game, like I've done pick'ems with like other friends that I have, right? Like just kind of what everyone is thinking. I didn't see a single person pick the Texans last week. Like not one person that I talked to preferred the Texans in that spot over the Chargers. And I think that really what happened was the Texans defense made plays. I believe they're like, I don't know. I think it's like first in turnovers like generated as a defense. Like they're really good at making impact plays. In my opinion, they're up there with the Steelers in terms of like just playmaking on the defensive side of the ball. And I think people sold CJ Stroud a little bit short, man. We've been talking about this. CJ Stroud's a very good quarterback. His numbers have not been great this year. Like if you're just box score watching, CJ Stroud has not had a great year, and you could say he's regressed. But dude's still an absolute baller. He did not make the mistakes to cost the Texans the game, and Justin Herbert laid an absolute egg. I was telling Yanni this after the game last weekend. I was like, I think that's the first Justin Herbert game I've ever seen where he was a very specific reason that team lost. It felt like all of Justin Herbert's career, he's never been the reason his team has lost. There's always been other things. No, that was Justin Herbert just blowing, and the Texans taking advantage. So they earned the win. They're going into Kansas City. It's a tough matchup, right? Chiefs in the playoffs. I don't believe they've lost since 2021 to the Bengals in the I believe it was the AFC Championship. So going to be a tough test. In my opinion, this game will be a little bit more low scoring than a game you would expect with CJ Stroud and Patrick Mahomes headlining it. The Chiefs just have not been great on offense all year. They've kind of been trying to find their way with Rashee Rice going out early, with Pacheco going out early. It's been a weird like mishmash of guys they've just been incorporating in. Like they have the ghost of DeAndre Hopkins out there. They rode Kareem Hunt like heavily for like 8 weeks. You had Juju Smith-Schuster pop up a couple times, but say what you will about Kansas City's box scores or whatever, right? Say what you will about Patrick Mahomes' season-ending numbers, right? This is still a 15-1 football team. They only dropped one game, and it was actually a pretty close one too. So, in my opinion, until proven otherwise, this Chiefs team is going to be a wagon. To me, I don't see many paths to victory for Houston here. I think they'd have to play absolutely dominant defense, shut out the Chiefs, and maybe make one or two impact plays on defense. I just don't see CJ Stroud having a prolific passing performance here, especially in Kansas City. It's just a really tough task here. I like the Chiefs personally. If I was betting the game, I'd probably take the Texans as huge underdogs. We've kind of highlighted this all year. The Chiefs and Mahomes tend to struggle to cover those big numbers. In the over under, I'd probably stay away. That feels like it's low enough to me. What do you think, Yanni?
Yeah, I would bet the Texans at plus 8.5 because I think it's going to be a low scoring game. It kind of profiles to me like a defensive battle, I would think. If I had to guess, to me, the key number in the game is 27th in red zone touchdown percentage for the Texans, right? Versus, the Chiefs. And even though the Chiefs didn't have an incredible touchdown percentage this year in the red zone, I feel like it's the playoffs and you sort of see this different level out of them. I think we're going to see a way more increased usage of Hopkins and Kelsey that we didn't see during the regular season. It is a Hopkins revenge game. He hates the Texans, right? He would love to knock him out. So to me, I think the game really could. I actually think both these defenses are good enough to give serious problems to the opposing offense. I know the Texans got beat up in that first showing until they sort of got their offense going. But that's a really, really good defense. I don't know if they had. Do you know if Aziz was in or was that during his suspension that they played the Chiefs? Think
Aziz was suspended last time.
Yeah, so like, dude, that's like their crown jewel on defense. That's the centerpiece of their defense. That's their Fred Warner, right? So, I guess what I'm worried about from the Texans' perspective too is like it seemed like if you guys remember how that game went, it was like a grind for the Texans at first. Then Tank Dell went off in like what was his best game of the year. He really started gouging the Chiefs, and like if they had Tank Dell, I actually think this is a competitive game. I just I would he was what was effectively beating up on the Chiefs when they were moving the ball in their first matchup this year. And with him being out, man, I think it's a really tall task. And for those of you that had Kaimi Fairbairn in fantasy, the Texans have a habit of getting inside the 30 and kicking field goals, kicking field goals, kicking field goals, or getting inside the 40. And like to me, it's just the Chiefs one or two touchdowns compared to the Texans one or two field goals, and all of a sudden you have an 8 or 11 point gap there, right? So I like the Chiefs. I actually don't think though. I don't know, but part of me says that this is going to be a non-competitive game, but part of me also thinks if these defenses keep it close, it might be one of those technical. Whoever makes the first mistake, and I still think C.J. Stroud would make the first mistake in that case. Dude, that's like becoming Mahomes' thing is those one-score grinded out games, right? I'll be curious to see if the Texans get any holding calls. Somehow every year in the regular season, they're top three in holding calls, and then they go away in the postseason. It's pretty amazing. In every Super Bowl they've won, they have not had a single holding call after being either first, second, or third in the NFL in holding. So I'm curious to see if that happens because the Texans generate a pretty good pass rush. And I probably even like the under here. I don't know. What would you take the over or the under on 41.5? I honestly think I would take the under.
If you made me pick a side, I'd take the under. Like the 41.5 sounds about right to me though, honestly. Like so
Yeah.
I would prefer not to pick a side. But yeah, I mean you bring up a good point, right? This Chiefs line, like just holding all the time and getting away with it. Is the NFL fixed? I
Yeah.
don't know. You made me think though on the other side, right? The Texans offensive line has been so bad as of late, and I think that's probably part of the reason CJ has struggled too. Like,
Yeah.
what is that unit going to do, and how will they hold up against Chris Jones, right?
Well, if they can't run the ball, and if Joe Mixon doesn't get going, CJ is going to be a crash test dummy all day. That's pretty straightforward. And again, that's why like matchups make fights, right? The eighth rushing defense and like the Chiefs have not been a fun team to come in there and try to rush against this year. They just haven't been. Dude, I think like if they stuff the run and they're putting the Texans in like second and 10, third and 11, those kind of down and distances. I I don't know. I don't know what they're really going to be able to do here. Um, yeah, it's just tough. I think it's a really tall task. But I think what I don't want to hear is any of this narrative. To me, CJ is still somewhere between 6 and 8 for quarterback rankings in the NFL. If you're doing power rankings, I think if you're starting a franchise, he'd be close to the top, right? He'd be right there with the big guys. I don't want it to be a referendum on his ability as a quarterback. Dude, he carried a roster that lost Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell and has a bottom 5 offensive line. He carried them to the second round of the playoffs for the second year in a row. Those are his first 2 years in the NFL. Like, to me, both of these guys, Patrick Mahomes and CJ, have been a statement about overcoming like offensive inefficiency and injuries to get to this point. I'm really impressed like with CJ's season, and I'm going to be stoked. I hope he goes out there and slings the ball, dude. I hope we see a Nico Collins, an all-time Nico Collins game. Like I hope it's a competitive back and forth game. I do think it's an extremely tall task. It's an extremely tall task.
Should be tough on Trent McDuffie. But yeah, we're both picking the Chiefs here. Not time yet to fade this wagon that is Kansas City.
No, nope. Okay, the Skins and the Lions. I am so excited for this game. I really am. So me and Ted have had a second string team fan thing going for years. Okay, my original second string fandom, way back, way before Joe Burrow, way before all of it, was the Cincinnati Bengals. I had to let the Bengals go because they got too good, and that was sort of lame, right? You have to let them go once they're good. It's the point is you take a pet project, you root for them for years while they're bad. When they get good, you got to let them go. I switched to the Lions. Okay, I put a post up actually on the Lions Reddit, and they trashed me saying that I'm a casual that just watched Hard Knocks, and that's why I'm a Lions fan. Well, it wasn't. I love the way the team was built. I love Dan Campbell. I love the O line, and this was when they were bad. Now they're too good. I had to let them go. I'm with the New York Giants now. But the Lions have been a team that it's just a fun team to root for me, especially if the Niners are out. Obviously, if the Niners are in, I'm going to root for the Niners. But man, how could you not love that, right? So I'm really looking forward to this game, and I think it's going to be an offensive shootout, and here's why: the Redskins' offense, 5th in points scored, 7th in yards, 17th in passing, 3rd in rushing, in big part because of Jaden Daniels, 5th in red zone touchdown percentage. 5th in red zone touchdown percentage with a rookie quarterback is fantastic. And then you have the Lions coming back at him, 1st in points scored, 2nd in yards, 2nd in passing, which is wild, 6th in rushing, 3rd in red zone touchdown percentage. So, I mean, that is as heavyweight of a fight as you possibly could ask for in the NFL at this point in the divisional round. I don't care what the reputation of the Skins coming into this year or how they might look on paper. I saw Rich Eisen label them as like the why not us team. Why not us be competitive? To me, it's just more like I just think they're a legitimate football team. And I understand the defense isn't anywhere near them, and we're going to see that here. The Redskins defense, 18th in points allowed, 13th in yards, 3rd in passing, pretty good on those two fronts, but 29th in rushing and 22nd in red zone touchdown percentage. And then the Lions defense, 7th in points allowed, 20th in yards, 30th against the pass, 5th against the rush, but 7th in red zone touchdown percentage. Aaron Glenn really has a good feel for what teams are going to when they get in that red area, and he's really shutting it down. I know Sam Darnold contributed to that with his ineptitude a few weeks ago, but so to me, that's really the offense, I think, speaks for itself. I think this has a shot. Everyone's excited about the Bills and Ravens. I think there's a real chance this is the most exciting game in the playoffs this year. I really do. I think maybe this is a hot take. I think the Redskins are live dogs here. I think they're actual live dogs. I'll put it like this. I had the other 3 picks this week, like kind of locked in. I took a long, hard look at this one, dude. I took a long, hard look at it. Now, here's what I think, though. The fact of the matter, over under at 55, by the way. Lions at -9.5, over under at 55.5. Is that the highest of the year? I believe so. I believe that maybe we had a 56.5 at one point this year, but either it's 54.5 or 56.5. I think that might be the highest. So what I was texting Ted about this week, though, I think fundamentally when you're talking about elite high stakes football, I do not think you can win if you can't stop the run. Like there are way too many. There's this whole symphony of consequences that comes out of not being able to stop the run. Your defense gets beat up and worn down, especially against this Lions O-line, right? The guys up front get worn down. The pass rush slows down because they're taking such a physical beating. It opens up the play action pass. It opens up the time of possession game. The offense stays off the field, which is obviously what the Skins want to do, is sit there with their high-powered offense. And then you have this weird thing where the Lions defense is so bad against the pass that I think we have the potential for some quick scores from Jaden and Terry, right? And so what happens then, right? The offense spends less time on the field. The defense is getting run sideline to sideline, north and south. I think it's not realistic, right, to ask these Skins to go in there and win the game. I think they're outmatched at probably both. Actually, not probably. They're outmatched at both coordinator positions. I think their OC is better. I think their DC is better. I think their head coach is probably better. I think Dan Quinn's a wily veteran. He showed that last week with the way the defense showed up and played, and actually played damn good football against Bucky Irving, which is no easy task. But dude, we're talking about the Lions O-line. We're talking about Monty and Gibbs. I think this is a very, very tough ask. I was also telling Ted before this, though, dude, the narratives coming into this, are the Lions a legitimate Super Bowl contender? If they are, they go out there and they kick the shit out of this team. This cannot be it can't be a hanging on by your bootstraps match if you really are a Super Bowl contender. And maybe they still beat them close and they still make a run. But to me, it's like I'm looking for them to really put a pounding on this team if they are potentially in the running this year. And then lastly, my favorite narrative, one of them at least, I think my favorite narrative about the game. I'm a huge Terry McLaurin fan. I've been a Terry McLaurin fan since he came in the NFL. Ironically, he is the guy that led me to discover efficiency metrics for wide receivers, which Ted hates, but I kind of like him. His rookie year, he spiked in all these weird categories where people were like, we've never seen a wide receiver that's this good at what he does on the field. And maybe he didn't live up to that billing, but part of that is his quarterback. I think this is the first year he's had a legitimate quarterback. And I mean, look at what he went out and did. Look at his first playoff game. I'm so interested to see, do Terry and Jaden have like an all-time moment in terms of just a rookie quarterback with a wily vet that's been waiting for this? Does he go out there and have like 180 yards and 2 touchdowns? I think that's in the range of outcomes this week for sure. Yeah, I'm very interested to hear what Ted thinks, but that's what's on my mind for the game.
Well, I do kind of like a big Terry game here as well. Both of these teams play a ton of man on defense. So the Redskins are going to try and man up on the outside with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta and Jamison Williams, which I think is a tough task versus the Lions. They try and play a lot of man as well. But there's Terry and then like a bunch of other guys, right? Like, do you think Olamide Zaccheaus is going to be able to shake, a Lions defensive back, like to get open? Like, it's possible, right? But I think a lot of times when you have these teams with not the best talent out wide, man works a little bit better. I am not bought in on this Lions like defense figuring it out thing. I know that there was a great performance against the Vikings in week 18, I guess now, in the regular season, but they're just still too banged up to me at this point to be able to be a good defense.
Yeah.
You're asking your team with like 6 injuries, right, on that side to stop the new baby Lamar Jackson, who is also, by the way, one of the most clutch quarterbacks I've ever seen as a rookie. Like, how many come from behind, like, or last drive, like, wins does Jaden Daniels have? Like, I think he had like 6 this year or something like that, right? Got another one last week against Baker and the Bucks. I think that, to your point, the Lions need to blow out the Redskins here because I think that if the Redskins have the ball last and it's close, they're going to win the game, right? Just because that's how the defenses are playing. I
Yeah.
still do prefer Detroit in this spot though, just because like it's all about the running game for me. Monty should come back this week. At least reports
Mhm.
were that he was targeting this week. I would assume they kind of work him in casually. I would assume he takes more of like a goal line back role this week. They kind of ease him back in. They've been riding Gibbs. Gibbs has been electric. I don't know. To me, this feels like a shootout, but it feels like the Lions in a shootout. Like, I think Jaden Daniels is going to look good. I think people are going to be even more excited about him than they were about CJ last year. But feels like the team of destiny, the Detroit Lions, takes this one. We both have them. Nothing too crazy here, but I do think they're a live dog though for sure. Like the Redskins could
Uh,
win.
just for my own curiosity, would you bet the Lions minus 9.5 or the Skins plus 9.5? Think
Jeez.
I'd take the Lions there. Um, just because I mean 10 points seems pretty doable here.
Well, I mean, if you take the Lions at 9.5, right? Like that's almost like a blowout. I would say at that point. Like, what are
10
the
points?
chances after? Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I would say that if you're taking a side that's a 9.5 point favorite, you're kind of expecting the game not to be very close, right? So it's like, do I think that MCDC has like the chops to get his team all excited and ramped up and ready to go and blow out a Redskins team after a bye week? Yeah, I do. I'd probably take the Lions here against the spread, but like if we were
What
just
about the
playing this like during the regular season, I wouldn't touch it though. It's just too many points.
what about the over under? I think I would smash the over on this. I think I'll take the over on 55.5.
I think that until further notice, I will take the over on all Detroit Lions games. It's great football to watch. They're already like America's darling, right? And now they're
Yeah.
like Not a great defense, one of the most amazing offenses in the league. Like it's great television for sure, I would say.
Dude, I was stunned to see their second in passing yards. Yeah, great game.
Yeah, it is kind of weird, right? That the Lions technically are better in the pass than the rush. Like just according to the numbers, I still view the Lions as like a running team, right? But just goes to show you how good of a year Jared Goff and Ben Johnson have had.
Yes, sir.
All right, next one. We got the Rams going into Philly to play the Eagles. Weather report. This is supposed to be a snow game here. The last two games we have on the week are supposed to be snow games. So should be a fun Sunday. I know that like a lot of times those snow games are like very fun for like viewers, and I think that we're gonna have some good football here too. For the Rams, they are 20th in points scored on offense, 15th in yards gained, 10th in passing offense, 24th in rushing offense, and 25th in red zone touchdown efficiency, only scoring 52.4% of the time they get in the red zone. For the Eagles, they are 7th in points scored, 8th in yards, 29th in passing offense, 2nd in rushing offense, and then 13th in red zone touchdown percentage, scoring 57.4% of the time they get in the red area. So look at that, only a 5% difference between like middle of the pack and near the bottom of the barrel. Just goes to show you how like offense has had a rough year, especially in the red area. Then for the Rams defense, they're 17th in points allowed, 26th in yards allowed, 20th in passing yards allowed, 22nd in rushing yards allowed, and then fifth in red zone touchdown percentage at 50%. Then the Eagles defense, I know the first four figures are right. I don't think they're tied for fifth, but who cares? Second in points allowed, first in total yards allowed, first in passing yards allowed, 10th in rushing yards allowed, and then let's just say they're tied. I don't know. I feel like that Eagles number is wrong, but oh well, we're already here. The line on the game is Eagles minus 6.5, and the over under is 43.5. So to me, like we've already seen this game this year, right? This was a standalone game on Monday night, or maybe it was Sunday night. I don't remember. All I remember is I had Saquon Barkley on my fantasy team, and that man almost ran for 300 yards and four touchdowns. He scored a 50 burger in half PPR standard scoring. I was over the moon about that. So when you look at that, it's like what has really changed for these teams between then and now. The Rams are on a 3 week stretch where they've held, when they have their starting defense on the field, they've held like three straight opponents under 10 points, which is one of the most insane runs I've seen from a defense. Whether or not that's them playing at an elite level or it's the offenses they're playing against sucking, I don't know. You could be the judge of that. For Philly, I believe they played in like week 12 or something. What has happened since then for them? I mean, Jalen Hurts got concussed for a little bit. He looked a little shaky last week to me, but I don't know. To me, like this game, if you think it's going to be close, boils down to if you think this Rams defense is really legitimate or not, right? Because make no mistake, this Rams team got just bullied. They got absolutely bullied and embarrassed in a primetime spot by the Eagles. Saquon made the Rams his bitch in their own like building, right? Like I just don't buy that defense really being good. I know they have some nice players, right? Like Jared Verse is a really great player. I think he's like second right now in defensive rookie of the year voting, right? But like the Rams also got guys on their defense like Akella Weatherspoon that are starters. Akella Weatherspoon is 49er, former 49er. He was a nice player, but he's like, he was like a third stringer on the Niners, right? Like it just feels like this Rams team, like while they have a wily veteran on offense, right, and Matt Stafford, they got Puka and Cooper Cup. They have Sean McVay. It just feels like this defense is too young. Like keep in mind, right, last year this Rams team was supposed to be a rebuilding team. They had a bunch of dead cap from their screw the pick Super Bowl run that they went on. Everyone thought they were kind of going to suck last year. There was some talk about Aaron Donald, Sean McVay retiring. They came back. They won on a great run last year. Lost to the Lions in the wild card. So they're really still on the come up. I think it's a young team. They're nailing drafts. They're still getting better, but it feels like there's still maybe 1 or 2 years behind being like a serious contender in the NFC versus this Eagles team that really, in my mind, has probably the best roster in the league, I would say. Like all of their players on both sides of the ball are sick. Wherever you look, this team is absolutely stacked, and especially with their defense coming on like it has this year. Like I can't tell you what the weak point of the Philadelphia Eagles is. You might be able to say their passing defense, but like Kenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean have been such huge like difference makers there. So to me, this one is Eagles pretty easily here. I'm interested to hear what Yanni says though, because a lot of the sharps, a lot of analysts like the Rams here as a underdog. A lot of analysts like the Rams to just win this game straight out, go into Philly and beat the Eagles. What do you think, man?
So I had both these teams in the final four coming into this year. So I thought really highly of what they each did in the offseason. Um, so I mean, I guess in some sense I'm happy to see them matching up. I don't understand though where the to me that's just like a talking head talking point. Like it's just a media thing to keep the conversation going this week. I don't think this game's competitive at all. I think this is the least competitive game of the week, like by far. I think the Rams are on blowout watch. I don't know, did everyone kind of forget that weird sputtering like 6 weeks the offense had where Matt Stafford looked old, man. He looked old. Cooper Kupp looks old. Even though he's not literally old, he's got a lot of mileage on him, you know. I really like Kyron Williams. I like Kyron Williams a lot more than Ted. I think he's a really good player, but like, is he like a put the team on your back kind of player? I think it's more of like situationally effective. Um, it looks like Higbee's going to be out. Higbee had, I want to say he had like 9 targets before going out in the first like 10 minutes or 50 minutes. I had him in DFS last week. That's why I noticed that. I don't know if he's going to play or not. Um, and like, dude, we saw what happened the first week. Again, you're going to hear this point again after this. Spoiler alert. If you can't stop the run game in high stakes football, I don't think you can win most games. I mean, there are times maybe when you can overcome it, but to me, it's just way too much. And if the Eagles get a lead, I think they're going to be able to puppy guard a lead. I think they're going to be able to bleed clock. I think they're going to be able to really beat up on a young, inexperienced Rams defense. I don't think the Rams are ready yet. I think they're way overperforming this year. And again, I don't want to hear like any level of criticism if they get blown out of this game. This was a fantastic success, dude. First time they picked in the first round since Sean McVay's been head coach. I think Sean McVay's done an incredible job. I think Stafford's done an incredible job. I think Puka's one of the most impactful forces in all of the NFL. But when you're talking about going in here, dude, you're going to the Eagles. I want to say, is this the snow game? There was one of the 4 playoff games got the warning for snow. I believe this was it.
This
Uh,
one and the Bills too is also going to be a snow game. We got two of them.
So, dude, like if we're talking about going into the rain, the snow with Stafford in this team, I think this is going to be bad. I think it's going to be bad. I would smash the Eagles at -6.5. The over under, maybe I would prefer not to bet, to be honest with you, if there's going to be snow, but Ted's been sort of into the snover. But even then, I think I would take the under because I don't think the Rams are going to be able to move the ball. I don't think they're going to be able to produce on offense. I really don't. I know we're talking about one of the great quarterbacks in the history of the game. We're probably talking about, when it's all said and done, one of the great head coaches that the game's seen, at least, top 20, somewhere in there. But dude, look at those Eagles defensive stats. Second in points allowed, first in yards, first in passing, first in rushing. Like, dude, that's a fantastic unit. Like Vic Fangio, they paid the most that any D coordinator's ever been paid, and they're getting every goddamn penny on that, right? Um, yeah, I think it's way too much. I think it's way too much. I'm kind of bummed. I think this is going to be a bad game.
Yeah,
I don't know
I mean, what
what
one
I
thing that what you said that really just kind of jogged my memory here. Like, yeah, when it's all said and done, I think there's a good chance Sean McVay, potentially top 20 coach of all time. But when I look at this game and I think of coaching advantage, I think of Nick Sirianni, higher winning percentage than Don Shula all time, a leader of men. He knows when to yell at the home fans. He knows when to shave his head to pump his team up. But I think of just absolute elite head coaches. Like to me, it's like Andy Reid probably won just because of his Super Bowls, but Nick Sirianni's nipping at his heels. He's coming for it this game. I love it.
yeah, yeah, that's, yep.
Fly Eagles fly, baby.
There he is. Okay. Ravens at the Bills, and apparently this one is on snow game alert too. Ravens offense, third in points scored, first in yards, seventh in passing, first in rushing, first in red zone touchdown percentage. Look at that fucking stat line, man. What an impressive season for the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry. That is amazing. And really, they've been a blast to watch all year. I'm not sure. I did not check their practice report for if Flowers is going or not, but I saw he DNP'd early in the week. You have to keep an eye on that if he's going to roll or not. I would assume he's going into the game questionable. The Bills offense, second in points scored, 10th in yards, ninth in passing, ninth in rushing, and second in red zone touchdown percentage, the 1 and 2 team in red zone touchdown percentage, top 10 in every single metric. Just amazing from the offensive matchup standpoint. For the Ravens defense, ninth in points allowed, 10th in yards, but a key number here, 31st in passing defense, first in rushing defense, 11th in red zone touchdown percentage. The Bills coming back at them, 11th in points allowed, 17th in yards, 24th in passing, not great in their own right, 12th in rushing, 16th in red zone touchdown percentage. The Ravens are favored by 1.5. I believe this is like, I forget how long it's been, but Josh Allen is an underdog at home, which is absolutely astounding. Over under at 51.5. So we saw this game earlier this year. It was an absolute ass kicking from the Ravens and Bills. And all I've really seen to address it, it's kind of like, if you ever tell someone I'm nervous about dying my own mortality, the only thing they ever say back to you is, hey, you got a while. It's a long time. Like, don't worry about it. I never get a good answer to that. Like, it's a while. I've not been satisfied with the analysis of why this is a different game all week. So all week, what everyone's been saying about the Ravens and Bills is, they're at home. The Bills are a different team. I don't really know what that means. And I'm not like saying that sarcastically. I'm not trying to be funny about that. I don't really know what do we mean they're a different team, or it's at home. I mean, is it home worth like 32 points on the spread? Because unless it is, it's not going to affect what the game looked like. I mean, dude, that was a non-competitive football game between these two teams. This is more of a TED talking point. I'm sure he'll hit on it when he gets to it. But to me, I do agree. I think the Bills really built out their team to compete with the Bengals, to compete with the Chiefs, and they did not foresee Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson building the type of rushing attack they had. For that reason, I think the Bills, even though their passing defense was much worse this year, I think in terms of personnel and scheme, they want you to pass the ball. They want to cut their pass rushers loose. They want to sit back and run their zones behind it. I don't think they want to be stopping the run all day. And I know they did decently. 12 is not bad at all. They're small, they're undersized, and they're not a physical defense. They don't have a thumper on that team, dude. They don't have, a Nate Landman. I think his first name's Nate Landman on the Falcons, that monster that was beating people's heads in this year. They don't have that kind of guy. They don't have a Fred Warner. They don't have those kinds of dudes. And it's the same thing. I'm not trying to be repetitive. I think it's the storyline of all these games. What do you do if you can't stop Derrick Henry? Dude, Derrick Henry might get 180, 200 yards in this game. What did he have? Like whatever thing, 170.
It was a 200 yarder the last time they played.
200 yarder the last time they played. Like, dude, that's it. How do you keep, like, you can't play Madden if the other team, for those of you who play online Madden, I play pretty competitively. I actually worked my way into the top 1,000 of last year's Madden. And like, when you can't stop the run, dude, you can't win a game of Madden football, much less NFL football. Like, it's just not I think this game's going to be a lot of Josh Allen watching prolonged 7, 8, 9, 10-minute drives from Lamar and Derrick Henry. I think this game is going to be a lot of like, they are smashing them in the face, and eventually that defense wears down. And how much can Lamar even, or how much can Josh even do when he's not on the field a lot? Like, I think there's going to be a serious time of possession skew here. Like, a generous time of possession to me would be like 36 minutes, 24 minutes. So 12 more minutes that the Ravens offense is out there. I understand that the Ravens offense has been, Ravens defense has been giving this year in a lot of ways, a lot more than they have been, especially against the pass. I think that's going to really matter. But you have to remember the Bills have made a lot of their one of the biggest changes of their offense this year was the franchise record-setting performance from James Cook on the ground. Dude, I don't think that's going to be there this week. Like, I don't think they're going to be able to rely on the rush. And if they do, I think it's going to be like Josh Allen bootlegs and read options, which sure will work to some extent. But I don't know if they're going to be able to rely on James Cook the way they have. And then they're going to be airing it out. And then you have that same dynamic that I described with the Skins and Lions. You're going to have one team that's airing it out and trying to probably scoring quickly if they do score quickly. I think that the Bills are going to be living on explosive plays here. I'd be surprised to see him nickel and diming him down the field versus another team that is going to have 15 play drives. Dude, what did they? I think they went 7 or 8 or 9 plays in a row rushing the ball. Did they have a drive where they didn't pass it against the Steelers?
They had a 13 play drive where they didn't pass the ball once against the Steelers and got a
Like,
touchdown. Like,
and each time we're wearing 30, 40 seconds off the clock per run. Like, dude, that's like that's like what you do. I remember in high school when we would play. It was actually Najee Harris's high school, and you would go in there and play Ignacio Valley High School when we were a D3 team and they were a D1. They would run the ball like 38 times, 48 times in a row. Why would they pass the ball? They would run wing T formation and just grind the ball. Dude, that's what the Ravens are doing to teams. That's what the Ravens are going to do to the Bills this weekend. It's weird. I'm just basically, when I say I think it'll be competitive, I just think it'll be competitive because I think Josh Allen's one of the great football players to ever pick up a football. And I think those guys don't go quietly in the playoffs. And I think he's shown a propensity to throw 3 touchdowns in 8 minutes of NFL playoff time. At the team level, does that get it done? I'm curious to see what you think, Ted.
well, I mean, you look at the two quarterbacks in this game, right? Like number 1 and number 2 right now in MVP voting. It's a it's a 2-horse race between these two guys. But I would say by far Josh Allen has the better playoff resume than Lamar
Yeah.
Jackson. Lamar has been getting better, right? He kind of stumbled his first couple playoff starts. He's been winning more. But Josh Allen has been consistently elite in the playoffs. I just don't. I just don't know, man. Like there's a big narrative coming into this game about how the Ravens have fixed their defense by I think ever since like this is a stat that's being thrown around all the time. Listen for this when you watch the game. They will talk about how they moved Kyle Hamilton further back as a safety, and the Ravens are
Yeah.
first in points allowed since then on defense. I think they've just beaten the shit out of a bunch of bad teams like the Cleveland Browns with
Yeah.
Dorian Thompson Robinson, right? And
Yeah.
just boat racing other teams. I don't buy that narrative whatsoever. So I think Josh Allen, we've seen it when he puts on a Superman cape. Like if I was playing DFS this week, I'd love Amari Cooper. I think Amari Cooper anytime touchdown. This is why you traded for him, right? For this game right here, especially against a defense that you get in the pass game and has given up a lot of explosive plays. But to your point, right? Like this Ravens team, they just manhandled the Pittsburgh Steelers on the ground, who have a very, I mean, say what you want about the Steelers. I've said a lot of what I wanted to about the Steelers, but they still have a very good defensive line, right? Like you're bullying around T.J. Watt. This time, the Bills have like Damar Hamlin, who's going to go in the hole and try and tackle Derrick Henry. Damar Hamlin might
Yep.
die again. If Derrick Henry hits him too hard, he might just die on the field again, dude. Like, I mean, what has changed between these
Oh
two
my.
teams ever since last time? I don't know. I think it's
Could you
Ravens pretty easy here.
Could you imagine the awkwardness of McDermott having to go to his team and go, guys, we did it once. We cannot forfeit this game. Like the guys are crying. They were last time. He goes, you guys need to go and take a minute, figure it out. We're going back out there.
It'll be like the Ravens up like 20, just bullying them, running the ball. And then like
what if
Damar Hamlin dies again. And then Sean McDermott's like, actually, we have to cancel the game.
what if one of their trick plays is to have a fake DeMar Hamlin death? So what if they're getting the shit beat out of him and he goes face down at midfield? And that's like, and then so then they like, you know what I mean? He flops.
Yeah.
But he flops a heart failure. It may work. It may work.
Jesus Christ.
Uh,
In case you guys couldn't tell, we're both on the Ravens here. To me, this
yeah,
is the best. This is the best against the spread play of the week. Ravens
yeah,
-1. I think it's free. Like it sucks. It sucks for the Bills and it sucks for Josh Allen because if they weren't matched up in this particular
yeah,
game, right, and they weren't playing specifically the Ravens, I think they might make it to the Super Bowl
yep.
out of the AFC. I think they just got screwed on the scheduling. They got screwed running into a Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson team. Good luck stopping that. So
With with the caveat that assuming the starting roster for both teams is alive at the end of the game, we're taking the Ravens.
yes,
If you told me if the over under on deaths was 0.5 and you told me they hit the over on deaths during the game, I would then be betting the Bills. So so let me know what you guys think.
well, me and Yanni have the same picks for all 4 games here. Not exactly very exciting, but it makes my Photoshop job a little bit easier.
Now hold on, Ted. Tell them why is that good news for you, buddy? Why is it good news for you that we have the same picks this week? What happened last week?
Yeah, okay. you got one extra game on me. You picked
I
Jaden
got one
Daniels.
extra game.
You got one
Yeah.
extra game on me. We both got some shit wrong though. It's just I
Yes,
was
sir.
a 500. I was a 500 guesser.
Yeah.
You just flip a
Yeah.
coin. That's as accurate as my guesses were last week. But
We did.
since we both have the same picks this week, we have the same final four. In Lions versus Eagles is what we're saying it's going to be in the NFC, and AFC would be a rematch of the Chiefs and the Ravens, and it's also a Week 1 rematch as well. First game of the season, actually. We'd see it again as the last game in the AFC. But yeah, that's what we got. Hope there's some good football this weekend. Last weekend, in my mind, was one of the
Yeah.
worst weeks of playoff football I've seen in a long time, just because nothing was really competitive other than that Skins and Bucks game. But yeah, if you made it through the whole video, thank you. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell. It really helps the channel out. Question for the audience: did you go out and try and get any Prismatic Evolutions Pokemon cards today? And if you did you stiff arm any children to make sure you
Yeah.
got your allocation at Target? Let us
Or
know in the comments.
have you ever been in one of those stampedes before? I have never in my life seen that as the most amazing thing I've ever seen, an opening day stampede. I want to hear a story about it.
I was in one today, and
I
there's
unbelievable.
a line of 75 people probably outside of the Target, and I showed up. Of
Dude,
course, I show up 1 minute before it opens, right? And I just walk right up to the glass door, and this like older gentleman, probably a 50-year-old wearing a hat, he goes, you know, there's been a lot of people waiting here. You can get in the line. In my opinion, you don't have to stand in a line to get into a Target or a Best Buy or something.
no,
Where I draw the
we
line is if there's like a door that you like, if it's a one-handle
yes.
door, then I will get
Yeah.
in line. But if it's sliding glass doors, I will not. Let us know in the comments
Not
if you abide by lines at double sliding glass door locations, because I do not.
Dude, it's not even like you don't queue up for a stampede. It's a stampede. You don't get, what there's no rules. I saw a 58-year-old frail Asian gentleman shoved into a gum stand. Like, the thing next to the thing, dude. I saw a guy get thrown in and his hair was all askew. And he was like walking out. He was walking out with like red marks on his face from the different candies he flew into. And he was like, they were supposed to guard all that and have it two per customer.
the
That's crazy.
the
Anyway,
best
yeah,
part
thanks
about
for
the stampede I was in was there was no cards even there because I cleaned them out the day before. All right. Yeah, we'll catch you next week for the conference championship episode.